Some say it's all about 1925 and beyond. The podcast. KC 100 year celebration with Pete A. Kennedy and Marlon A. Kennedy.
Welcome, it's the 1925 and Beyond podcast. I'm your co-host, Pete A. Kennedy, and I'm here with my big brother, Marlon A. Kennedy, and we have a special guest today. But before we get to the guest, let me say congratulations to KC on the Boys Champs victory. This weekend, I was there in living color, and I must say to Principal Dave Myrie, to the Boys Champs coach and management team, congratulations. One more year upon them is what I would say as we celebrate 100 years. So again, big up to the team and congratulations. So let's move on to the guest. Let me give you some credit though. I went to Kingston College between the years of 1992 to 1995. 93 and 94, I played Colts. I won Colts in 94. And 95, I moved on to Manning Cup, and it was history for me then. But let's move on to co-host Marlon A. Kennedy.
Thank you, Pete. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of 1925 and Beyond. I'm the co-host Marlon Kennedy, also a KC old boy. I went to KC from 1986 to 1993, played cricket at all levels and captain at all levels as well. A bit more exciting in terms of victories other than my brother Pete in his boring time at KC, but hey, that's another thing. But we work with that. We're glad to have a special guest with us today. We're glad to have another special guest with us today. Our guest was highly recommended by Vice Principal Madam Hall. And she said that, you know, Marlon and Pete, they are two senior teachers that you guys must speak to. They're the bedrock of our academic system that we have here. And so we got their numbers. Well, and I've only spoken to one thus far, and she's here. So with us today, we are pleasantly joined by the lovely Mrs. Andrea Rose, senior teacher at the Melbourne Campus. Mrs. Rose, hello and welcome.
Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Kennedy. It's good to see you both.
Thank you, Mrs. Rose. I must say that before we get into it, you know, when I attempted to call Mrs. Rose, you know, she answered the phone without saying a word, because all I could hear in the background was some spiritual vestive singing. So I know that somebody was at church. So there's no other "do not disturb me" message you need more than that. But I appreciate it. I apologize, Mrs. Rose, at that point in time for calling when you were in the midst of your worship. But I appreciate that you did call me back. So thank you very much and welcome again, Mrs. Rose.
Definitely. And before she begins, you know, I must say, this is the only guest that has greeted us by the terminology or the way of saying the Kennedys. So I appreciate that. It sounded well and it felt well. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Well, you do well a lot for Pete, Mrs. Rose, because there's still some question about whether or not he's a true Kennedy, but we're still awaiting that long DNA test results, but we'll work with it. So, Mrs. Rose, Mrs. Rose, in true fashion with all our distinguished guests, we ask you to tell us about your story. Tell us where it started, you know, where you grew up, your siblings and all of that, which schools you went to, primary, high, and how you made that transition, you know, how you got into teaching before you come into KC.
Okay, started out, I lived in Jonestown, and my parents sent us to Central Branch College School. All right, I took the first, we do common entrance. I know some of you don't know common entrance.
Oh, we know
common
it.
entrance. Oh, okay. Right. My father was not pleased with the fact that I was not successful in the common entrance, so he moved me to New Day All Age School. So when I went to New Day, I passed my common entrance, but I selected the school Melbourne. Yes, I went to Melbourne High School. Later down in my life, of course, my parents moved from, I was about 7, 8 to Garvermead. That is in Portmore. That time Portmore never developed yet. Took X83, X84, those kind of buses were, I don't know if you know. Then at Melbourne, I did a couple subjects like RE and stuff like that. More the art subjects than the science. And I had a choice of going to, I've never told anybody, I've got into Howard University. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know. I had it from my father. I got into cars.
Mrs. Rose, man. I'm glad you said that, because the other day when Pete came and visited the school, I was standing right next to you, and you were telling me this as well. So now I know who you are. Yes, man. You were right there beside me.
I was saying, how did we not see Mrs. and we at the campus all last week? We were there with Captain Rose doing the aviation workshop. I was talking to the boys the Tuesday morning at devotion. I am in 8 Gibson. I'm like, how do I not know this Miss?
No, man, we met her.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't. I had to keep that undercover. Another university place was University of Technology.
Wow.
It was cast then, AAT. Wasn't too sure. I even wanted to do auto mechanic.
Yeah.
In mind. But then again, I said, you know what? Not too sure. So I'm going to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So it went on teaching. And
hold on. What were your options with eeny, meeny, miny, mo? Just auto mechanic and teaching?
Teaching, cars, and auto mechanic. I dismissed
Howard.
Howard University. Then I dismiss it. Understand? Because I knew if I said that to my father, he would have moved hell to let me go there. I can tell you that. He's like that. So I dismissed. I didn't tell him about cars either, because if I told him that, he would have said go that route. And the reason why I say this, because when I told him I'm doing teaching, he said, no, man, I'm not paying for that. He was really upset. Yes. Because he said, normally teachers, one, they always have to end up begging government for more pay. People don't see them in terms of financially. They should be able to support themselves. And most time he said, because he's a tailor by profession, he was trained overseas, and he said one of the things he noticed about teachers is that they always ask for discount. and I'm the same thing. Where I go ask for discount too.
So what were his expectations for you? What did he prefer for you?
He wanted me to do the sciences, and I got through with 1 physics when I was at Melbourne. But I didn't tell him that either, because I knew if I told him, I would have to go there, do physics. So some things I had to hide from my father. You understand? Because I knew him. I knew what kind of person he is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I hopped into teaching, and what more I will never forget with the teaching profession, I went for an interview. And when I went on the interview, I couldn't believe I could be in a room with about 7 men interviewing to become a teacher. I was sitting, that I will never forget. I was saying, and Mr. Shirley was there, and I was saying, he's teaching. So how am I putting up with so much people for one little interview? But what inspired me most in terms of going into teaching, really, was Mrs. Martin. She was the vice principal of Melbourne then. It was my main motivator to go into teaching. Although I went on more, it really I wanted because of her. She was more a mentor to me in that perspective.
So Mrs. Rose, so just to go back a bit now, before you did your interview, because you did say that your father said that he wasn't going to pay for it. So how did you manage going into Teachers College?
I had to strike a deal with him. My father is one of those men who, if you borrow money from him, you have to write a receipt. I, Andrea Rose, borrowed the sum off Martin and plan to pay back. He's like that. But for this one, I said to him, all right, pay for it, and I will pay you back.
Okay.
But I didn't. He didn't want it. It just vexed him.
Which Teachers College did you attend and when?
The Michael.
That's
the
right.
Michael College.
The Michael.
What year you started?
I think I started in 1990. Not quite sure. 93. I know I came to KC in 1993, October the 4th. So I just spent 3 years there.
So you came straight out of Michael to KC?
Yes.
Yeah.
What were you studying at Michael?
Well, that's another thing too. I was supposed to do maths and RE. And when I went to the math class, the lecturer turned me off and I just bend down, duck, and leave. So I know I have an idea why the boys them feel certain way. So you know.
So you did RE only at Michael?
No, I didn't do my RE, you know. I changed my discipline. I did history and social study. And social study was a subject that I didn't have. And the rules state that you have to have it before. So what I did it on my own the year and ended up getting it before because I would have to come out of social study if I didn't have it. So I ended up do it
separately,
right? And I was not, well, history, I went into history, you know, I went into more the reading subject.
All right. So tell us, so let's go back now to that interview panel now. You and 7 men.
Oh, I don't even, they asked me a lot of questions. They asked me, Mr. Shirley was there too, why I was interested in teaching and so on. I told them the reason why, which was Mrs. Martin. She was really a real good role model. I mean, she teach you how to sit on stool. I mean, I did tell them some things like those things that they asked. I was kind of shocked that when in teaching profession and so many persons interviewing you at that time, you know.
But this was to come to KC or this was to start school?
Just this was to start Michael.
Okay.
Michael,
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, when I was, that's the only thing. When I came to KC, I was interviewed by Major Cohen.
Why did you select KC though, Mrs. Rose?
Oh, what was it now? You know, I applied to St. Mary and KINGSTON College. And I had a batchmate that we were talking to. Her name was Arita Russell. I think she's a principal for a school of the Boulevard. I'm not quite sure the name of the school. She told me about KC, and I told her about St. Mary. So we both applied. She got you. Got you to St. Mary, which she didn't mind, and I got you to KC. So that is how it worked out.
So what was it like now when you started at KC?
Well, you know, KC, Major Cohen being the principal at that time was really strict. I didn't mind because, you know, when he enters the school, you know, there was silence, but there was dead silence when he enters.
Certain tension in the air.
Yes, he had a certain demeanor about him that requires certain standard. You know.
Yeah.
You know, for me, all right. I remember he came to my class on several occasions. I mean, he will just say, "Mrs. Rose, hi," and he walks in, you know, and he will just sit there for a few minutes, and then he left, you know. He was like that, you know.
So you started at the Melbourne campus or the North Street campus?
At the Melbourne.
Teaching history and social studies.
Studies, yes.
So you remember which form was your first form that you had?
Yes, it was, I think it's 7, I'm not quite sure. I think it was 7 Hardy.
Are you
7 Hardy, right on the block there, right?
Are you in contact with any of those? Because a couple of the teachers say, boy, you know, they have that sort of connection with some of the boys they had in their first class that they had. So are you still in contact with any of those? Or you never had a connection with that
no. The only student I know that I am in contact with, and it wasn't during that time, is he's a lawyer, you know. He was in Jamaica and he moved from Jamaica and gone to Cayman to live. What's his name? Oh Lord.
But until
yeah, it will come back to you.
Until you remember him name, Mrs. Rose. So what was it like when you started teaching at KC?
Well, you asked me that. It was initially I had to learn the ropes in terms of meeting deadlines. That was my main key that I always remember, because I remember the French head of department, not at one time, she said,
Miss
Mrs.
Douglas?
Rose. No, not Miss Douglas.
Okay.
After Mrs. Douglas, she became the head of department. She said, Mrs. Rose, and that's what I remember about meeting deadlines at KC. We don't have the whole summer to finish marking, because in my perspective, if you end the exam in June, school not going to open until August, so I have June, all of July to mark. So I have nowhere to go, so I take my leisure time in marking. So they kind of inform me. That's how I learned early that meeting deadline at KC is very important. So that is my first thing. I tend to remember the things that tend to impact what I do here at school. You understand? And set my trend in terms of how I go about doing things. All right. So that was one aspect of my life here.
So so what was it like? Because I know quite a few of the administrators that are at KC now, you know, so they started out as a teacher, then were you ever any coordinator, exam coordinator, class coordinator? You did any of those bits and pieces, head of department?
Oh, I became the coordinator, recommended by Miss Ellen Douglas, and for the coordinator position. She was the one who recommended me for the coordinator position. I became a coordinator then. Not quite sure the year, but I think it's 1996.
Nice.
I think. I'm not quite sure, but around that time. And I have been coordinator for grade 8, then moved to grade 9. And ever since, I prefer dealing with the grade 9s.
Got it.
You know,
Why
you can
is that
relate
so?
to them. You can relate to them. You know, they're going through their hormone changes and stuff like that. So I had no problem telling them my thoughts, and they have no problem telling me what I'm not going to say. And yes, and so on. So I tend to relate more to them. I don't know if it has a lot to do with the fact that my 3 brothers had an impact on me growing up, because I didn't used to play the female games. I was more into the male game. Cooper Lake, jump over desk and stuff like that.
Cooper Lake. So Mrs. Rose, man.
Yes, Celia Lash, those kind of things. I was more a tomboy because I moved with my brothers. So I could relate to them. You know, if a boy come to me and said, Miss, such and such happened to me, without the physical perspective of them, I could relate to that. You understand? So, you know, if I didn't know, I said, okay, I'm gonna call a brother. So I had that in mind.
Support system. That's
good to hear.
Yeah, man.
That's good to hear. So you know, what has it been like? Because you've gone 30 plus years in teaching at the school. You know, what has that been like in terms of the, you know, what have you seen changed over the years? that has been positive, and what are some of the things that you think, you know, that we probably are not doing now that we probably should still be doing in terms of teaching and how we, you know, how you engage and interact with the boys?
All right, let's talk about the changes. Okay, over the years, one of the things that I learned is that each principal brings with them different perspective, and I've seen that. Over the years. I have noticed that Mr. Brian was more of a social perspective. He more developed the social aspect of both students and teacher. He tried to, that's one aspect about him that I always admire about him. Understand? He looks out for the interest of. Mr. Murray does that also, but Mr. Murray more bring to the table like the infrastructural aspect of the school. He has taken the school from that perspective to where it is presently. So you have to give each one their credit. He tries to liaison with his staff, and the staff would have to then, one of the things he asks for, he has an open door perspective, and the staff need to see that they need to go to him if they have an issue, which he has an open door for. So as I mentioned Major Cohen before, you know, that aspect, and was Mr. Johnson now.
Yep.
I think for me, he's more of he pushed more for the English perspective of the school and the language and aspect. I can tell you, you can see it in terms of how you go about and the moving around the campus to see that the boys them in the class, what is wrong with this issue and so on. He is that aspect of him. I'm just telling you what I can gather from my perspective. Each one, understand? But each one brings to the table a different perspective of their type of leadership.
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
So are there changes that institutionally are even coming from the government that, you know, we have made that you think that we should still be doing in order to enhance learning, especially with the boys?
For us, you know, we have basically implemented most of the things that the ministry asks for, you know, because I remember touching Mr. Mary one day and said, "Sir, we think this is too much, you know, and we can't ignore them sometimes." Mr. Mary does, this is a ministry. They're in charge. So he understands what I'm saying.
To deliver.
To deliver what is required. You understand? So for the type of leader, the senior management team that we have, they make sure we are equipped. It's not like if not but.
Yes.
You understand? The senior management team see that if the government say e-portfolio, lesson plan, unit plan, going to the workshop, meeting all the criteria that is required. We have writing your report as a coordinator, monitor the boys them, see to it that parents are called upon regarding to any infraction, or to see that we even award the boys them. That is also part of it. The school does that. It's not an if nor a but. We do. And a matter of fact, we even have 3 exams. We have the one in December, we have the one in mid-year, and we have the one in end of year. And I'm doing my little survey and find out that some school doesn't do that. And I can go to the boss and say, "Boss, we can put out one." I'm just saying that, but you know, and when you look at it in terms of Mr. Mary and his team, he goes as far as trying to implement in the city and guilds so that the boys them do the city and guilds for grade 9, and he will push for the increase in other subject area. Like for example, I think we have introduced law to the 6th form, right? So we are moving to that perspective.
Nice.
You know?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
What has it been like with you know, the interaction with parents and the PTA and so forth?
Okay.
What's that support like?
Yes. The PTA is very supportive, and I've watched them over the years. The interaction with parents, we have a good and bad. I'm not going to say everything is perfect, because I will have my days with the boys there.
Yep.
All right. I will have my days with parents, and we try to do with Madam All, or if there's a problem, Madam All, we call a meeting, get the guidance counselor involved and so on, and then we try to find solution or you know, mediation to resolve the issues at times. Because I had one recently, because me and another student, and I interject because I went and talked to the parents, because I don't know, Madam All know about it. I don't know if you know, and I try not to.
So you try some of those interventions before it moves on to Madam Hall.
Anywhere, yes. Yep. So I try to do that. You understand?
Nice.
So those are the kind of things we, and we have the training for. We get the training from it, whether it's from JTC, because recently I had to do a course on supervisory, and they train us in terms of how to, and it's a requirement by the school that you often go into and do your proper training, whether it be certification and so on, for those things. So we do have that.
Nice.
Are there any memorable occasions that you can remember, you know, for your time that you've been here? Because you've been here for you've seen quite a lot since you've been there. Yeah. So
all right.
Is there any time that stand out for you?
Yes. What stand out for me most of for one is when we started the breakfast program. It may not seem important to you, but it did for me, because what it did was it opens door for boys who did not have breakfast in the morning. Because I can tell you, if you don't have a meal, there's no way on hell you're going to be able to pass a student and say, you have to give the work. The student must be comfortable.
Yes.
And I have to give thanks to Mrs. Watson and the others, you know, who went ahead and started the program. I was just there with them in terms of helping, in terms of going through the process of doing that. We also go as far as asking for old boys to support us, you know, in terms of not only breakfast program, but the scholarship and so on. And I must say, I must lift my hats to the old boys, you know, who go out of their way financially and otherwise. And the next thing too was a mentorship program, which over the years we have, where we have like form period this week, or we have next week we have the mentors come in, and because you have some boys, whether we like it or not. I always say I'm a female, but there's an aspect of the male aspect that can reach them, because there are some things that a boy, I remember some boys would say in the class, "Miss, you know, whatever." I said, no, it's normal for a boy to get up in the morning, and you know what I'm talking about. I said, nothing is wrong with that. Leave the boy alone. You understand? They need a one-to-one with a male to talk to them.
Some of those
regarding
things,
that, you know, because you know, I know about those things.
Definitely.
Yeah, you understand? So and if it may be sometimes they have a female to talk to. Sometimes I think I can tell them to a point, okay, you're not ready for it, but it's one thing to say them that, but at the same time, they need a male to say, okay, son, XYZ, we go for that, blah, blah, blah. I remember a boy come to me one time, and I have that rapport with them. I was doing a particular topic, and I didn't even want to say it either. And the boy said, "Miss," so, and I said, boy, I'm going to be honest with you, you know, if that is a discharge, you know, there's a serious issue and blah, you know, these are the kind of things.
Yes.
I know there is a one-to-one with males. There's no doubt about it for me. They need that. You understand? For me.
And Mrs. Rose, I must support that 100%. And I want to say to the KC old boys out there, even if it's just walking the hallways, right? And you'll be shocked, right? I've spoken to crowds of them, and it's the quiet ones that stop you in the hallway. The loud ones that stop you, they're loud in the crowd. But it's the quiet ones that stop you in the hallway and say, sir, come here. And they pull you and they say, ask you this question. And you'll be like, but you were so quiet when I was speaking. So I must recommend and say, like you've heard it from the senior teacher, Mrs. Rose, if you are visiting Jamaica or you live in Jamaica and you have a heart to give back to KC, just walk the halls, man. I tell you, them young boys will stop, they'll ask questions because, like she said, they're missing that mentorship. And we know the program happens from time to time, but just walk the hallways.
You mentioned about the young man, Nigel Gale. Nigel Gale. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that boy is a brilliant guy. Brilliant. Nice. It was right. I will never forget. And Moses, I know many people will not remember him because he was on the other side, but I remember that young man for one particular reason. I don't even want to say it, but there's another part. That's why I said that sometimes these boys need mentors because his father died. When his father died, that is when you saw him going down in terms of,
performance
and other ones.
Interaction with everybody and everything. Yeah,
man. And I'm telling you, if he had somebody like a male to reach out to him, I'm telling you, he passed away years ago. And how I knew that guy had that leadership quality. I remember being in a class and the boys were making a lot of noise and carrying on and not listening. And that boy stood and I didn't know, I thought it was me. I thought it was me. He just stood up. And that's the entire place just went silent. Yeah, man. I know I will never forget Moses, class just went dead silent and I was able to teach. But it was in my early days in teaching. He had that command and later on I found out aspect of his life, but I'm not going to disclose it.
Yeah, which is right. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
But Moses, man, I never forget him.
So were there anyone else that left an impression on you, whether,
Yeah, Nigel. Well, for me, Nigel Gale. Nigel Gale is a student, really. He was very bright. And there was another student who I'm not going to get into that one because I tend to remember the ones who, because of some reason, they...
Some tragedy or
some sort of trauma or something that they went through.
Yeah. I tend to remember those more than anything else. Because it's like you want to help them and you can do so much and no more. That young man, he was a brilliant guy. For every class he goes, he's on top and he's just pure A. Yeah, man. Okay, the people who had an impact on me was as colleague. Madam Hall is one, Mrs. Watson is one.
That is Sonia Watson.
Sonia Watson.
Yes.
The next person also is Beverly Cameron Davis is one. Even to another teacher, but she named Wilson. She was in the geography department. She died years ago. Sonia Watson, I think she more one of them that end up making me do guidance and counseling. Because I'm rough. I'm rough by nature. I'm just telling you that. I'm rough. Yeah. And every little thing If things is not in order for me, yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's the worst thing to have peer brothers around you to some extent. So I'm rough by nature. So I believe that if I talk to you as a boy, any student, you must conform. So I'm rough. So Miss Watson always say, Andrea, you can't be that, you can't do that. Mrs. Madam always call me and say, Andrea, what you did? So by nature, I am rough. I'm not asking. I'm telling you as upfront. You understand? I grew up with a father who is rough by nature. My brothers, only one of my brothers kind of more on the soft side. But when I said soft side, he's still rough.
Yeah.
You will see that part of him just come out if there's something to be done. So I am more rough, and if I'm talking to you, I want you to conform. You understand?
Yeah.
I'm more the teacher that will more grab you than anything else. And I try not to do it because I have to go to Mr. Meyer office probably about 3 times. and I promise him I'm not going to go back there. So I try not to do that.
And I was about to say that we're not going back there. We're not going back.
I'm not going there.
In that fashion.
Right. So, there are some things that I do, but I really don't want to talk about it. I just rather we just, the school is a wonderful school, and I'm going to say this. I grew up in a house that is in opposition. Don't have an opposition. And I end up married an opposition who end up helping out KC. So when we have all Mayfair, my opposition had to come and help me in the Mayfair. So
and just to be clear, is that JC or C bar? We want to be
clear. Georges, which one?
C bar.
Okay.
And my brother was in track and field too. So I'm like that. I will, if I need something, I'm gonna call the C bar brother. If I need something, I call the husband who is a C bar. But he is like that. That's the thing about my husband that I really love about him. He is a supporter. It doesn't matter to him where I remember having him standing out when we had the Mayfair. I don't know why we don't bring back Mayfair and bring it in a different way, because
So there's some buzz out there. We're trying to do something like that. So let's see how it works out. But there's a buzz. We're trying to bring back the Mayfair.
Yeah, right. And my husband would be the one, because he loves to read.
Yeah.
You'll be one, because you will have to buy the ticket, and then you buy he will be the one giving out the books.
Oh, the magazines.
Right. And then you will sit there reading the comics. So the comics and those things, we usually get the books them from out of it's not there anymore though. A publishing company down near, it's off Camp Road. I can't remember the name. But we usually do things like that, Those are the things that I remember. There are some things that I'm not going to say.
Good day.
Yeah.
Good day.
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Rose,
Yes.
boy, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well. There are some things that we need to hear, but probably not in this forum, because there's a lot that you want to say. But what we do ask of our guests, Mrs. Rose, before we get to that, is that I also want to tell you, thank you very much for your time, your effort, and your, to give up, to serve in this manner in terms of, especially to Kingston College and to teaching on a whole, especially for the 30+ years that you've been a part of the institution. That is, as them say, on a boy years, them there, some real big man years that, and it's truly appreciated. So in true fashion as well, Mrs. Rose, we always ask our guests, so the 2 things to end their story. 1, to wish KC happy 100, and 2, just to leave a positive message for the current student body, the academic staff, administrators, everybody that's there, and persons that will be viewing this podcast in the future.
Okay. I was interviewed by the student, the six formers, let me just say this, and I told them that we're going to win. So win champs without a shadow of a doubt. I told them that because I saw what they were doing in the evening, because I stay here late and wait for my drive to come. So I knew they were going to win because it can't be 100 without the champs to close it off.
Yeah.
Understand? Yeah. So for me, the boys, all I want for them to do, really and truly, is to focus on what they really want to become. You understand? And just zero on it. You understand? Everything will come afterwards, boys. Everything will come and add up afterwards. You set a trend and a standard for yourself and focus on it, you will achieve. I can tell you that. My own life can tell you that. All right? So you just put things in place and everything else will add up. You understand? If you plan in life, you have to plan out what you want. You understand? First thing you do is to acquire the academic subject that you need towards your career. You accomplish your career, and then everything else will go. I can tell you that. Everything else. You understand? The other things that you want, it can achieve afterwards. You understand? And that is one of the things I said to the boys. Listen, it can't be that you're in track and field and you have the scholarship come to you and you waste it. No. The aim is to take it.
That's correct.
You understand? It is given to you. You understand? So accept it and move on and focus on what you want in life. You understand? Everything else will add. The good wife, the car, the house, I can tell you. You understand? And you make yourself a standard, the kind of person you want to live with. You make it, you write it down, and map it out. You understand what you want, and then everything else will add up. For me, and I hope they will be able to see that. The next thing also is for my colleagues, continue with the love and show the love, you understand, to each other. You understand? Express yourself in a decent and nice manner, as we often do at times. And for administration, continue to do and empower us as teachers. That is one. You understand? Mr. Mary tend to try to ask us our opinion. He has an open door. Go to him and talk to him about if you want anything change, because he's the type that will listen to what they want. You understand? So they need to do that. And he can continue, senior management can continue to do what they are doing, putting in the infrastructure that he wants. I remember, I think he mentioned about fixing up the classrooms and getting the windows and so on. He had that plan in mind and putting on the projectors them in the class and so on. I know he has some plans and he has stated them, and I know his plans are what his plans are. And I hope he will get the support he needs to do so. And God bless the school.
Yeah.
You understand?
Wow.
God bless the school. All right.
Wow. Wow. Wow, there you have it, guys. My gosh, Mrs. Andrea Rose, senior teacher from Melbourne, and so far out of the 100 years, she has served for 32. I would call her the negotiator, because as you heard the story, negotiated with dad to get into college, negotiated with her brother. There's so much negotiation, as you can see, that drives her success, and as she shares with the boys, I must say, oh my gosh. We are who we are because of your service and your talent and the time you've given to the institution. Thank you.
And an enforcer, Pete.
Oh, Lord.
Don't forget that part.
Hey, that's what negotiators do.
She's hiding that part in the Pete.
That's what negotiators do, right? And we'll leave it at that. But you heard it here only on 1925 and Beyond podcast. She was accepted or given an opportunity to go to Howard, and she decided not to. and chose another choice, which has impacted the greatest institution that I consider in the entire Caribbean region. But we cannot end this podcast without doing what we normally do at the end. And as a faculty staff, we do not force you to say it. We only force the old boys because it's the greatest motto of them all. But over 32 years, Mrs. Andrea Rose, you must know it, as you predicted the boys' championship that we did this last weekend. So I would ask that you join us in saying the greatest motto that came out of the greatest institution within the region of the Caribbean. And it goes like this. Fortis, Cadere, CEDRE, none Potest. The brave may fall,
but never
yield.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrea Rose. Walk good. I look forward to seeing you again on the Melbourne campus, which I visit many, many times and a lot, and will be back. And the next time I'll there, I'll make sure I come find where you are. But I must say, thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. And thank you what you do for Kingston College. See you on the next 1925 and Beyond podcast. Cheers.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, man.